Welcome, Age of Vintage Society. Greta Garbo is the demure and elusive icon of Hollywood's golden age. In her most iconic roles, she played tragedy and melancholy to perfection. Her portrayals of strong-willed heroines earned her 3 Oscar nominations, and she was awarded an honorary Oscar in 1954 for her significant achievements on the silver screen. Why Greta Garbo spent her life in isolation and despair. Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Age of Vintage channel. Greta Garbo's explosive love life with Hollywood men and women. Hidden letters revealed a secret love for another actress. Greta Garbo is still today held up as one of the unmatchable stars of Hollywood's golden era, even though most of her films are rarely revived. But if you were watching Hollywood in the mid to late 1920s, you were getting mixed messages about Garbo. You were told she was this enigmatic lone wolf on screen and off, and you were also asked to believe that she was in love with many of the most famous Hollywood celebrities. In the 1920s and 30s, Greta Garbo achieved fame and won accolades for her roles in hit MGM films such as The Torrent, Anna Christie, Mata Hari, Grand Hotel, Anna Karenina, and Camille. Garbo's expressive eyes, subtle acting and sensual beauty won over audiences and critics, and her secretive, reclusive nature off-screen only added to her mystique. There are many things in your heart you can never tell to another person. They are you, your private joys and sorrows, and you can never tell them. You cheapen yourself, the inside of yourself, when you tell them. The image of the mysterious and uncommunicative Greta Garbo has drifted around the edges of human sexuality for nearly a century. She converted her enigmatic sexual status into power at the box office, and profited from the curiosity and titillation it aroused. Because, though Hollywood did not address liberal audiences directly, it routinely pandered to male voyeuristic interests, which made Garbo a star of the highest magnitude. That she did not fulfill the social sexual script the world had prepared for her was the world's problem, not hers. More significant than with whom Garbo slept was how intimacy and gender were integrated into her life and films, because what the general public thought it knew and what the homosexual subculture actually knew about Garbo's real life cannot be separated from her star image. She was romantically linked with Tallulah Bankhead, Lillian Tashman, Billie Holiday, Louise Brooks, Mercedes da Costa and Marlene Dietrich. One of the most salacious stories is the one involving the beautiful banana-wearing singer-dancer Josephine Baker. According to legend, the 2 sultry stars got hot and heavy at the foot of the Eiffel Tower itself. The story is possible since it's pretty certain they both liked girls, but there's never been any proof that they got hot and heavy with each other. The juicy story is probably just a twist on Garbo's movie Ninotchka, where she fell in love with a man at the tower, which she described in the film as such a waste of electricity. Research into her personal life humanized her in a way that resonated with me almost painfully. For all the glitz and glamour of her Hollywood star, she was deeply uncomfortable with herself, at times angry or afraid, often depressed and reclusive. Her name wasn't her own. Greta Garbo was born Greta Lovisa Gustafsson, nor did Garbo look like Garbo. When she first arrived in the US to launch her Hollywood career, she bore almost no resemblance to the solemn starlet whose image has even entranced cultural theorists. Instead, she was a frizzy-haired, sleepy-eyed girl with uneven teeth and an uncertain smile. Despite her iconic slender figure, she was deemed overweight by studio executives in her native Sweden and in Hollywood. What hit me hardest was learning that Garbo was queer. Her unsuccessful relationships with men were marked by dissatisfaction, often with her own feelings towards such relationships. She was known to have had affairs with several prominent women in the arts, but still returned emotionally to her high school sweetheart. She became an icon and a diva, went in history as a cold, unearthly, majestic woman with extraordinary piercing eyes and indescribable beauty. She was silent, preferred solitude, and therefore she was surrounded by an atmosphere of mystery. The tender and passionate heart was kept under the outer facade of aloofness. It was this woman, as it was recently known from secret documents, was a secret agent of the British and saved the Jews in Denmark during the Second World War. Greta's biography is full of surprises. Garbo is as misunderstood as she is beloved. Even her famous line, "I want to be alone," is misquoted, as the actress told Life magazine in 1955. "I only said I want to be let alone. There is all the difference." She did not want to be alone. Instead, she spent her life in isolation and despair because she wanted to be with her drama school sweetheart, the Swedish actress Mimi Pollak. Private letters released in Sweden to mark the centenary of the film star's birth throw a new and tragic light on the tormented life of the pauper girl from Stockholm who became the face of Hollywood in the 30s, made 27 films, and spent the last 50 years of her life as a recluse. But it was not merely the unrequited love for Pollak, with whom Garbo maintained a correspondence for 60 years, that overshadowed the star's life up to her death in 1990. Garbo called Pollak as Mimosa, in which she writes, "The letter from you has aroused a storm of longing within me." The young actor is said to have been invented by Pollak, describes herself as slow, tired, boring, when far from her girlfriend. Garbo remained as obsessed with Pollak, who by then is married, when writing from the US in 1928. "I dream of seeing you and discovering whether you still care as much about your old bachelor. I love you, little Mimosa." 2 years later, when Pollak announced she was pregnant, Garbo writes, "We cannot help our nature, as God has created it, but I have always thought you and I belonged together." Later, in a telegram to mark the birth of Pollak's son, Garbo writes, "Incredibly proud to be a father." At least 2 men, Swedish publisher Lars Saxon and American silent film star John Gilbert, are said to have proposed to Garbo 3 times, but in a letter on MGM notepaper obtained by the Postal Museum, she writes to Saxon, "I will probably remain a bachelor all my life. Wife is such an ugly word." Greta Garbo chose to never marry, but she sure loved to get around. The silver screen icon went out with men and women, singletons and married people, and she did it all on her own terms. Garbo, who was born in Stockholm on 18th of September 1905, has been depicted as a happy-go-lucky girl who was turned into an ice maiden by what she called the MGM factory, a film-making machine into which she was launched in 1926, after her hairline and teeth had been straightened, her eyebrows plucked, and she had been forced to lose 15 kilograms, 33 pounds. But research on her life before she left for the United States at 20 shows that, through her ambition and vanity, Garbo was at least as out of step with puritanical Sweden, where self-effacement is considered a quality above all others. Greta's dad died when she was 13. The family consisted of a mother and 3 children, so the girl dropped out of school and went to her first job. Later it turned out that she was depressive and ashamed of her latrine-cleaning father. She worked in a beauty salon, retail stores, began to act as a model for photos in local advertising videos and magazines gradually. The girl was noticed by agents. She was invited to an episodic role in the movie Peter the Tramp. The girl decides that she will pursue a career in the cinema. Greta goes to the Academy of Theatre Arts to implement it, where she mastered the profession of the actress for 2 years. She meets with a director named Moritz Stiller, who thinks over the image of Greta and shoots her in several of his films. A silent movie instantly opened the talent of the girl. Besides her looks, height 5 feet 5, 170 centimetres, piercing look, grace and plastic looked on the big screen well. The actress conquered film critics, and ordinary viewers inspired colleagues and attracted producers. She is offered to move to the United States. Greta did it. She had movies, love, success, and a lot of money here. She became the highest paid actress of the pre-war time. $270,000 for the film was an incredible amount at that time. Her best roles in films were about strong women with character and desire to live a life in the name of love and faith. The heroine of Garbo often died at the end of the film. The characters played by Greta gave her global fame and the title of one of the best actresses in Hollywood history. The actress did not disappear from the screens when the sound appeared in the movies. So many people assumed that the mystery of Greta and her unearthly image would disintegrate at the first sounds of her voice, but the timbre of the actress had a magical effect on the viewer. A weak, low voice with slight hoarseness became the trademark of Garbo. The personal life of a film star was full of secrets and rumours. It is only right that the woman was never married and did not discover the happiness of motherhood. Greta always called her absence of her children and husband as her conscious choice. Instead of creating a family and taking care of her, Garbo chose to live an exciting and unusual life full of love experiments. She had a bad relationship with some colleagues in the film industry. For example, Garbo and Clark Gable starred in the film Susan Lennox and Rise Together, after which they quarrelled. The actor considered the woman arrogant and biased, and Greta called the result of Clark clumsy. Once she almost got married after a passionate love affair. The actor John Gilbert proposed to the girl, but Greta changed her mind at the last moment. After he enlisted in the military at the start of World War II, the actor Gilbert Rowland wrote in his memoirs that Garbo took him to bed to celebrate, even giving him a pair of her panties as a keepsake. Then, when he returned home from leave months later and reached out to her, Garbo refused to take his calls. Because the actress was so private, she never kissed and told, but it was widely known that she bedded the most homosexual fashion photographer Cecil Beaton, starting in the mid-40s and continuing for 3 decades. Garbo and Beaton dated intermittently and were seen together at different times in New York and California, London and Paris. Marlene Dietrich was considered for Garbo as her main rival for the title of Queen of Hollywood for many years. Moreover, the actress was jealous of her rival to a prominent writer, Erich Maria Remarque, who maintained a close relationship with Greta and was delighted with this talented, unusual woman. Marlene couldn't admit that she's inferior to her at least something, and she was strongly against Garbo for a stolen heart of Erich. It is well known that Greta Garbo was in a serious relationship with both men and women in different years. Her lovers were always successful people, as a rule, representatives of creative professions, those who shared Greta's passion for creativity and art. They were often the actors, directors, or members of the elite among men. There was the screenwriter or the photographer among women. One of the most famous people who had a relationship with the actress was a successful businessman, George Schley, who was married officially with Greta for many years. It is still unknown the reasons for such a strange, almost painful love affection of the actress to not an attractive but smart man. However, the affair lasted nearly 20 years definitely, as a result of which the man helped the actress to increase her wealth. Garbo was not ashamed of her sexuality, but knew better than to risk the wrath of studio executives and the strong opinions of members of the public. It is likely that Garbo's isolation had as much to do with her dislike for publicity as it did with her longing and heartbreak for the long-lost love of Mimi Polak that was not able to be spoken or consummated. For Golden Era Hollywood, however, keeping up appearances was integral to keeping the cash rolling in. Studios were adept at cover-ups, and its stars were contractually obliged to maintain a particular image, which meant that if Garbo did indeed have inclinations towards other women, it had to be kept under strict lock and key. The Garbo-Pollock exchange is explicit and long-running, though it suffers from omitting Mimi's replies, but if further proof was needed of Garbo's preference for women, the Postal Museum has dug out a letter she wrote at 14 to a friend, Eva Blomgren. It seems to be written after a lover's tiff. Greta belonged to the category of women who should not make an effort to look great and attract admiring glances at every appearance. Greta's style struck the public in the cinema in the years of her triumph, and continued its existence after her death. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new here, and if you want to support my work, please visit my Patreon page. Now it is your turn. What do you think about the life and legacy of Greta Garbo? She was consumed by her determination to become not only an actress, but a great star.